Before we get into the video today, I just need to let y'all know that there have been scammer accounts going around on Instagram posing to be me. This is my username. It is spelled exactly the way it is on the channel. No periods, no underscores. I do not have a backup account. I do not offer private readings. So please, please, please read very carefully when you look at the usernames of these accounts. I will never solicit you for a reading in your DMs. Please be careful out there. Please do not get scammed. This is happening to so many other tarot accounts as well, and we don't really have any way of dealing with it except for making you all aware. So just really pay attention and know that this is my only account, spelled like this. Hello there, my beautiful pumpkins, and welcome back to the pumpkin patch. If you are new here, hello, my name is Kloee Taylor, and I believe that we have the most autumnal, most fall-esque, beautiful, lovely corner of the internet. So if you like my vibe, you like my style, you like the way that I read, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and become a member of the pumpkin patch so you'll get more readings like this every single week. And before we jump into today's empowering message from spirits, I really wanted to just take a moment to remind those of you that are considering, I do have a Patreon available to you. There are several different tiers. You get early access to my readings, exclusive pick-a-cards, early access to horoscopes. You get weekly energy readings depending on the tier that you join at, of course, monthly info, journal prompts, and so much more. So definitely come over there, hang out with us. We have a much tighter knit community there. So if you are wanting more and you like what I have here, it's a great way to support the channel and allow me to do more of this stuff. So if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. But let's go ahead and talk about this reading. So this morning I was meditating with spirits and I asked what the collective needed today, and I got the words empowering home. Spirit guide came out, which I find that to be funny because I feel like messages from spirit guides often come out. That's typical for my channel. We do a lot of that here. I work a lot with spirit guides, my own and sometimes some of yours. And there was a third word in there. I want to say it was comfort. So we're looking for, basically, I'm just going to kind of look into maybe where you currently are and provide you with some self-empowerment, maybe some clarity and assurance of your current situation. And we're also just going to see what spirit has for you right now that maybe you really need to hear. So pile number 1 has a piece of honey calcite on top, or I want to say that's what this is. I'm pretty sure. Pile number 2 has a bumblebee jasper, and pile number 3 has a piece of moonstone. So you can choose based off of the crystals. You can choose based off of the numbers in the timestamps or the emojis. I do different emojis too. You can read the auras of cards if that's something that you are able to do. But just know that you are never going to choose wrong, even if the entire reading isn't specific for you. Oftentimes there are a few cards or a specific message in the pile that you needed. And it's also okay to choose more than one. Some people will actually listen to the entire video and then go back and decide which reading applied to them the best. There's no wrong way to do it. You can listen to as many piles as you want. Sometimes the piles will connect too, and I'll usually try to let you know if I notice something like that is happening. But there are just a myriad of ways to choose, and know that you can't choose wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and turn up the meditation music for you for about a minute or so, but you can also pause the video if you need more time to choose, and then we'll get into it. pile number 1. If you chose the honey calcite, this is going to be your pile. I do want to say that honey calcite, because it has kind of a yellow in color property to it, obviously, there are so many uses for this, but I wanted to point out that Spirit initially was directing me to remind those of you that chose this pile that your solar plexus chakra might be the one where like you feel a lot of your worry and upset, or where you might just feel things really intensely because the energy there is imbalanced. And this is very common. I feel like the sacral chakra, in my experience, connecting with others, oftentimes the sacral is the one that is most typically off balance in this dense reality. So there are so many ways to go about balancing. You can listen to even just the like chakra music on YouTube is really helpful for the solar plexus. But there might just be like, if something feels heavy on you, or there feels like there is a lack of like joy or self-empowerment going on, I would definitely take a look at balancing your solar plexus. So let's go ahead and see what we have in your reading for you. So I'm so excited. I actually have a couple new decks that we're using in today's reading, and they're all just like so pretty, and I'm here for it. Oh, your reading, you actually have a different number of cards than I was expecting. So great. Sometimes Spirit be like that. So we do have for you, and I apologize if the table is shaking. I'm hoping within the next couple of months that we will have a slightly better setup to do this. But right off the bat for you, we have the last quarter moon in Gemini, which says clear your mind. Last quarter moon in Aries, work through the feeling or your feelings. And full moon in Cancer, let your fears dissolve. So if y'all follow me on Instagram, this card, let your fears dissolve, was one that actually came up. I did like a little, sometimes in my stories, I'll do little readings for you all, or I don't think I've ever done one on my page, but sometimes in my stories I will do them. And you just like choose a number or choose an emoji, and then it shows you the corresponding card. So definitely follow me on Instagram if that's something that you would like to have more of in your Instagram feed and stuff. But this card actually came out yesterday during that reading. And I had a lot to say about it. There was a big channeled message with it. So some of you might have even seen that. But what I'm getting from this right now, with 2 last quarter moons and a full moon, the feelings that you are experiencing, I feel like, are very draining and intense right now. Because even if we're just talking about the moon phases, the last quarter moon is right before a new moon, which often it is darkest before the dawn, right? And new moons often, however, bring new beautiful energy in. It's usually a time of us planting new seeds, but we have to get to that point first. And the full moon often is the culmination where things can feel really intense. This video is actually being recorded during a full moon, the full moon in Aries, which by the time you see it, if you're on YouTube and not on the Patreon, you won't see it until probably the day after, maybe even the day after the full moon. But what I'm really hearing from this ultimately is that the way that you're feeling could be extremely intense right now. And it's really like, I'm feeling pressure on my solar plexus, like something heavy is sitting there. And it's not a literal something. It could be just that your feelings are really intense, and that's where you carry a lot of your worry. And Spirit is ultimately saying that it's time to clear your mind. So prioritizing meditation, prioritizing a bath, or if you feel like you can't slow down that much because it feels very scary to do so, which is totally normal. You're not alone in this. Nature walks. I can't recommend a nature walk enough. If you can go outside even for 5 minutes, nature walks are just a really great way to reconnect with yourself while not being too overstimulated, but stimulated just enough. And Gemini usually is known for having a lot more racing thoughts, especially when there's a lot of overwhelm or upset going on. And then with the last quarter moon in Aries, work through your feelings. This is also a call to start embracing the way that you feel. Start allowing the way that you feel, even if it feels like it will be totally out of control and you will be overthrown by your emotions and the way that you feel. Ultimately, if you allow yourself to work through them and you allow them to be there, I promise you won't lose control. That's usually the ego talking to us, trying to control everything so that we can stay quote unquote calm. But we've been living in a state of discontent and not calm for so long that your ego has made up all these stories about how you can do it, but it's clearly not been working. And with full moon in Cancer, let your fears dissolve. That to me is really what this is about, is getting very clear on your state of mind and how you feel, and allowing yourself to dissolve the really intense emotions that have seemed to be cropping up. So let's keep going and see what other cards we have for you. So we do have a few of these. I actually used a couple of Rider-Waite-Smith decks today, which usually I don't do it like this, but I don't know. I felt called to be a little spicy and different today. So we have for you the Five of Swords. This is literally exactly what I was talking about here. The Ten of Cups and the Sun. Okay. Oh, I kind of laid these out funny. Sorry, this one is supposed to be right here. And then also the King of Cups. Oh, see, pile number one. What did I tell you? With the Five of Swords coming out with the Ten of Cups over this clear your mind, right? This energy of clear your mind. I knew. First of all, the Five of Swords, you are feeling so disconnected from other people and like you're all alone, that you are literally this person on the ground under this cloud. You are so afraid to speak what you're feeling out loud to anyone else, even to yourself. You're not even letting yourself process the way that you're thinking and feeling. And you feel like you're an outsider and that everybody will abandon you if you decide to open up a little more. I'm also getting the sense from Spirit that there is a big family disappointment. Like maybe you also feel like familial, which this could also be friends that you're really close to, but Ten of Cups often resembles our family. And I feel like there might have been a lot passed down to you from family, from tradition and lineage that you have really taken upon yourself to honor. But in doing so, as you transition into this new phase of your life, you're realizing that those things that you were honoring, they don't actually make you happy. And you've designed this very picturesque life, but it is in service of how somebody else told you to live. And that is why you are having these racing thoughts and all of this worry that's cropping up for you, is you're so scared to live life on your own terms and really kind of defy the rules and regulations that have been given to you. And you're afraid that if you start to do that, you're going to be crowned a bad person. And you've maybe always been the strong one, the one that has quote unquote fallen in line the way that your parents or mentors have asked of you, or friendships have expected you to behave. And you really haven't stopped to honor yourself, no matter how chaotic it looks to you. And that is what is demanding your attention. It's time to actually maybe go against the grain, against tradition. And it feels scary as hell. Like I'm feeling like all of this like really scared energy to just step up and be yourself, because it feels like everything, like maybe you've even seen this. I feel like I'm hearing is that like you've seen, especially in a family dynamic, maybe you've seen siblings kind of do, unless you're an only child, obviously this is going to be different. It could just be people out in the world as well that you've watched maybe your parents cast judgment on, or somebody that you admired cast judgment on, but you've seen how other people have lived and how they've been judged, and you're so terrified that that judgment is going to fall on you. And Spirit is saying to question that thought of what would happen if I was judged? What would happen if I did disappoint them? What would happen if I started to live for myself? What would happen? And again, I feel like that feeling of abandonment is really what's coming up. But I have to tell you, Spirit is saying, and here to remind you that if somebody is willing to abandon you for being your most authentic version of yourself, they really weren't meant to be in your life in the first place. And trying to control how they feel about you is actually very manipulative. It may not be the intention that you're putting into it, that you want to manipulate the way somebody else feels about you. It can actually be very innocent. And it might be that somebody else showed you how to do this, a parent, like I said, a mentor, or somebody that was really important in your life, or maybe still is a figure, right? But at the end of the day, that is what it is. It turns into a manipulative way of living because we are manipulating somebody else's perception of us to fit into a box that we don't actually want to be in. So I feel like that's a lot of what is spinning out of control here. But then, as you allow yourself to really sink into this, to change your thought perception, to allow fear to dissolve, to go in there and to let yourself unpack how you're feeling. I'm telling you, nature is going to be very healing for you, pal number one. I can tell because the King of Cups is even sitting here in nature, just enjoying a cup of coffee by themselves. This is not like, don't get me wrong, if you feel unsafe processing emotions and things on your own, I always encourage you to go in with somebody else, to maybe lean on a therapist or a really trusted friend that you feel very comfortable being yourself with. You can always go that route, and I would always encourage that if you don't feel safe. But if you are able to, and it feels safe enough to, go in alone. Go in alone, because this King of Cups is by himself. There's nobody else even around on the bench. There's nobody else around gazing with them. They are taking a moment in stillness for themselves. And I feel like this is something that your literal bones have been aching for. And then we have the Sun, which this to me says that as the fear dissolves, as you allow these things to kind of wash through you and you become, I hesitate to say like clean again because that sounds like baptismal, and we are not doing that on this channel, but really like just wash away like all of the muck that your spirit has been holding on to. The sun will shine again, and life is going to feel very elated and very beautiful and allow you to truly rebirth and come to a place of feeling that sunshine. Feel like, I'm gonna like cry, I'm sorry. Like, it just feels like you've been wandering around in the dark for a very long time. And this is saying like life actually can be beautiful. You just need to start taking a chance on yourself. Sorry. Usually when I start crying during readings, it's because I'm feeling what you're feeling. And that hasn't happened in a very long time. And then I have a couple more cards. We have even more too. We're not even close to being done here. But we also have for you the Knight of Crystals. And we have the Four of Crystals. So this to me is literally the message of creating your own calm, your own sense of calm, so that in the future, if you are standing in the eye of the storm, you will know how to handle it. And that is what this part, I'm getting the chills. That is what is happening for you right now. Even if it feels difficult and like everything doesn't make sense, what is happening right now is you are being presented with the opportunity to create calm in the midst of chaos. Because where you are going next in life is going to require that version of you. It's going to require you to have the gift of remaining very calm when things feel out of control. Because to be honest, nothing in our life is really in our control. Like, yes, we can control certain aspects, but nothing is really in our control. And the sooner we surrender to that idea, the sooner we're going to be able to create calm amidst the chaos. Now, we also have for you Free Reign. These cards are brand new, and every card deck that I've used today, I will link for you down below. Some of them are affiliate links, some of them are not. This deck, however, this is not affiliate. This is a Linda Fabry deck, and Linda Fabry just does excellent, excellent, excellent work. This is probably one of the coolest decks I've ever seen. But let me read to you what it says. We have a couple of these cards. Free Reign. There is no need to fear falling when you have wings. Unleash your power by exercising your freedom of choice. Practice emotional agility. It's okay to change your mind. There's stability in the ebb and flow of the heart. See, there's no need to fear falling when you have wings. What a beautiful message. And then we also have Enchanted Changemaker. Express your bold, beautiful, magical, creative self. Conduct a symphony of synchronicities and rejoice in your song. Allow your heart to dance upon the wings of change. That's really what's happening. This is coming up in your life and causing so much to be unearthed because change is on the horizon. And I get the sense, not all of you, obviously, but I feel like for some of you might actually have red in your hair, whether it is dyed or not, or it's natural, or I don't know why, but I just saw somebody that's listening here that actually does have red curly hair. But it also could be that, it also could be these butterflies too. This card is very significant. And I feel like you might be somebody that thinks that you are not here to create change. Maybe you have a desire to, but you don't know how. And Spirit is saying you have to start small. You can't take on changing the entire world until you work on changing yourself and your family lines and the people closest to you. And it doesn't mean that you force change on anybody. What you're actually doing is becoming your authentic self. And as you are more and more and more authentic and true to yourself, that's something that we know even in the realm of psychology, that when one person in a family line changes, it changes everybody else in that family line, even if it's on a microscopic level. And in that same breath, even when we do ancestral healing, the best work you can do for ancestral healing is to heal yourself. Because when you heal, you actually heal the entire line behind you as well. And it goes outwards to future generations too. It doesn't have to be this thing that takes years and years and years. I mean, yes, the healing journey is never ending, but it's not something that you have to go through to each individual person and make things right in their life. You simply doing the self-loving act of healing yourself is what will create beautiful change going both directions. And you are somebody that is meant to kind of upset that family line or that line of people around you. And once you can do that, it's kind of like the container of which you are supposed to practice in. Once you do that, that is when you can kind of rise up beyond the familial systems and go farther out. And it can be scary as hell I don't know why that phrase keeps coming out. I don't usually say the word hell a lot, but for some reason, I don't, and that's weird because I don't even, this is definitely coming in as channeling because I don't even, maybe it's specific to somebody else, but personally, I don't even believe in a hell. I think if there is a hell, we're already in it. I don't believe in that typical Christian way of teaching about heaven and hell. It's just not for me. But maybe some of y'all do, and that's why that keeps coming out. You feel like you're literally living in what would be hell. It's just weird because I don't really use that word a lot. But anyway, as I was saying, it can be scary as hell to go beyond what you've always known and what has felt comfortable and where you've kind of made a quote unquote safe space. But the thing is, the coping mechanisms and the ways in which you felt safe before, the reason they aren't working now is because they're not supposed to. It's almost like you've gotten so comfortable in a specific way of living and doing things that it's time for change. And literally your body is starting to send you messages. Your mind has already been screaming. And now your body is saying, hey, listen, get on board with us. It's time to start changing. And I just feel like that's really a big part of your path right now is to enact change in yourself so that it will trickle out to the people around you. Again, not because you're meant to change people around you, that's not your job, but changing yourself, people around you will shift regardless. It's always how it happens. And I can even tell you that like from an experience position, like I hate to get too lengthy with this because I'm not trying to co-op your story. I'm always really afraid of that. Some people love when I talk about personal experience because they prefer that method of teaching. And some people really hate it and think that I'm just sitting here to talk about me. And ultimately, it's always to try and shed better light on the cards. But to make it brief, even in my own family line, I am the only, out of a huge family, I am the only person that has moved away and now have even moved farther away from home and has totally done life differently. I'm not like, and this isn't to shade anybody in my family line. I think everybody is just people with their own problems, but I'm the only person that doesn't struggle with addiction and doesn't struggle with, like, I struggle with mental health, which I think a lot of us do, but there's just, I see a lot of ways in which I have been my own change maker in my own family line, and where I grew up very, very sheltered and very close to a narcissistic parent. And it has taken a decade to come to terms with that and to start living life on my own terms. And just know that, like, even in the hardest situations, no matter what position you fall into, be it you being the oldest child and always feeling like you had to be the leader and maybe you were painted more golden, be it that you were invisible and nobody noticed you, or that you were the scapegoat and everybody always blamed you, you can do life on your own terms. You do not have to keep people pleasing and falling in line with the family dynamic that was given to you. There is everybody's story that has quote unquote escaped out of that and changed it. Every story is difficult. Yours isn't some like super crazy version that you'll never be able to escape. Start reading stories of people that have done these things, because I feel like they will really empower you and allow you to start making these decisions for yourself. So the last three cards we have is some self-care options for you to really dive into this work. So we have for you connect with crystals. So if you needed an excuse to get out to your local crystal shop or do some online crystal shopping, there it is. Connecting with some crystals. I know honey calcite might be a good one for you. Also, I would say if you're dealing with a lot of like emotional stuff, I really like selenite for emotions and rose quartz. And as far as like mental intellect, I really like aquamarine. Even though that's more of a throat chakra crystal, I just find that aquamarine can really help to reel in like my racing mind. But I believe that crystals can kind of be charged with almost any energy you want to put into them. So just like know that you're also not going to make a wrong choice in crystals. Those are just some suggestions. Then we have build strength. So this is also a call to start moving your body a little bit more. I feel like if you are somebody that's experienced a lot of trauma, spirit is saying that the trauma is in your body and you're not going to be able to think through all of it. You need to move your body, be it dancing, a yoga practice, lifting weights, I've heard is extremely grounding. Running, walking, whatever kind of exercise you can get into, even if it's just committing 10 minutes a day, that can really help you move this energy through your body and then kind of flow out. And then we also have for you connect with your womb. This is why I think this reading was really rooted in family. Is the womb space often talks about the family, and it doesn't matter what body parts you have or how you identify. Everybody can connect with the womb space because we've all come from one. And I've talked about this before on my channel, that connecting with the womb space, often this can be about connecting with our birth or even our birth mother. And really doing some healing work around that space. So, that is what I have for you, my beautiful pile number ones. I hope that this reading spoke to you and that it has given you the courage, the empowerment, and the strength to start to do this beautiful work with yourself, because there is a way out and the sun will shine again. You will have emotional clarity. It's just a matter of starting to put that work in for yourself and to believe in yourself and to know that it's possible and that you can. But I love you so much. Please do not forget, when you stand in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. Don't forget to check out my Patreon, which is linked down below, where you get extra content. Horoscopes are already out for the month there. We also have the weekly energy out this week. And there's another reading coming to the Patreon exclusively this week. And there will also be early access, if not today, then most likely tomorrow, to the next reading that will be coming to my channel. So definitely make sure that you check it out if you're interested. And if you would like to support my channel even more, I do have my Cashapp, my Venmo, and my PayPal listed. It is not a requirement, but I do accept tips for my readings. It really helps me to continue to do what I do here. And I really appreciate it. But again, it's never an expectation. And there is also my Instagram and TikTok. I'm at Kloee Taylor. And I would love it if you would follow me, pumpkin. I love you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye. All right, pile number 2. If you chose the Bumblebee Jasper, this is going to be your reading. So you got, right off the bat here, you have, sorry, I'm just going to move my mic a little bit. You have the first quarter moon in Libra, keep your heart open. Full moon in Aquarius, be real. And last quarter moon in Aquarius, reflect on your priorities. So you got a couple of Aquarius cards, which something to note about the sign of Aquarius is the authenticity warrior. Aquarius is the humanitarian. They're really here to just experience life in the most realist way possible as themselves. And that's not to say that other signs don't do that. I just find that Aquarius tends to be so authentic that they always get this silly label of like being a space cadet or being spacey or like having out there ideas. And in my opinion, everybody has out there ideas. Aquarius just has no problem expressing them. And this is why we stand Aquarius on this channel. But I feel like you ultimately right now are being very called to ask yourself what is most important to you right now and be very raw, honest, and real about it. It doesn't mean you got to fight everybody. It just means that it's time to ask yourself what really matters, because I feel like there's a lot of things that you have made matter to you that don't actually matter. And it doesn't mean that you don't matter. It's that there are just certain things that don't matter in the grand scheme of things, and you have maybe put a little too much on your plates as of late, and this is why your priorities need to be shifted. And with that first quarter moon in Libra, keep your heart open. I think this is also about, like, maybe you've expressed yourself in the past and you've been very shut down, and so there's a part of you that is afraid to be open and honest and authentic in certain settings. And Spirit is honestly telling you that it's okay to keep your heart open. It's actually a very brave thing to keep your heart open when you feel like shutting it down, when you feel like closing off from the world, when somebody doesn't accept you or doesn't allow you to be your most authentic self in their presence. It says so much more about how they don't allow themselves that level of authenticity. And keeping your heart open is the bravest thing you can do in this moment. And I also want to pay notice here to the fact that all of these cards are air sign cards. Aquarius, I know a lot of people think it's a water sign. It's not. Aquarius is actually an air sign. Aquarius is the water bearer. So like they bring water, but they're not actually water signs. I know that can be really confusing because their symbol is also the squiggly lines, which kind of look like waves. But nope, Aquarius is actually an air sign. And Libra is also an air sign. So we have a lot of like very air dominant energy. And I feel that with this might be a lot of stuff going on in your mind. And it's time to actually start taking what's going on up here and bringing it out into the physical world. So, because air signs deal often with the mental intellect. So let's go ahead and get some more cards out here and see what we got. So we have Judgment, then the Four of Cups, the Ace of Coins, and Temperance. I feel like with these cards, well, number one, Judgment and the Four of Cups coming out. Judgment under keep your heart open. I think this is also coming out very literal. And this is actually a depiction about how we judge things at first glance, or maybe how others have judged us at first glance, and how we are not allowing ourselves to be as open as we could be. And this is really what your spirit is wanting from you, because with 2 Aquarius cards coming out too as significators to this reading, it's time to be a little bit more open and less judgmental and allow your heart to soar. And with the Four of Cups, I think, again, this also kind of piggybacks off of Judgment. The Four of Cups is often when we are being given a lot. We're being given opportunities or different ways of being, or really cool things have happened, but we just dismiss them instead of saying, oh, this could actually be such a great thing. Like, maybe something really good happens, but immediately you start thinking, oh, but what if it goes bad? What if I shouldn't accept it because it's going to be bad? Like, it's almost like being offered, what's a good example? Being offered like a collaboration somewhere. And immediately we start to think, oh, but if I do that collaboration, people are going to expect more from me and my work is going to be harder. So I better just not do it. And it's almost this energy of just like keeping yourself small by not allowing yourself to be open to a bigger possibility. And with the Ace of Coins and Temperance, this is literally this Ace of Coins. It's like a seed being planted. And Temperance is saying to have the patience to see that seed come into a full culmination before we, like, I think there's a saying, it might even be up on my Instagram. It might be something that was quoted by my assistant that does a lot of those postings for me. But they're usually quotes that come out of my podcast. And there was one about like, when you plant a seed, you don't go out into the garden and dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You just let it grow. And I feel like this is the same with yourself. It's okay to mentally check in with yourself, but also give yourself time, give yourself grace, allow yourself to evolve into this authentic version and stop questioning, am I doing it right? Am I doing it? You are, you are, you are. Literally, Spirit is saying that right now. You are, you are, you are. There is no need to question there's something else that's coming up here. When we're going through a process or a transition, we often think that the graph, if there was a graph that resembled us and our progress, we think that the graph will just be this like straight upward line. And interestingly enough, that's not how it often works. The graph often goes like this. And we actually have moments that feel like huge setbacks, but they're not. And we can carry on the next day and continue in that process. I think a big part of you coming into your own and being real about what your expectations and desires are for your life, it's going to feel a little scary and unnerving. But ultimately, it's not a setback. Those things aren't coming up to the surface for you to be a setback. They are coming up because you are meant to plant new seeds. And you are meant to try doing things differently. We also have for you the 10 of Swords and the 5 of Cups. So there's a lot of despair going on in the sense that I feel like there's something that you've been gripping in your life really tightly. And I think it has something to do with maybe even the way that you portray yourself in some way. Like it could be publicly, it could just be to family. There is a way that in which you portray yourself that it's time to let that part of yourself go, because it's not serving you. It's actually hurting you to hold this thing. And the Ten of Swords isn't a card that talks about you just having to die. It's literally allowing something that doesn't serve you to go so that the sun can rise again. And that's why this card is the way that it is. We're resting. Yes, there are a lot of knives in our back coming down on us to rip this thing away, to cut it away from us. But the sun behind us is rising again. And that is the ultimate depiction that will bring us into the next phase, to be patient enough with yourself to be down. Sometimes I feel like you're so afraid to let yourself down. And I don't mean like disappoint yourself, but to slow down. There is this constant need to feel like you're doing self-improvement, you're working on yourself, instead of just allowing the feelings that are arising within you to be there. And even if it takes you a few days, a few weeks, a few months, yeah, that sounds miserable, but if we make room for that allowance, the sun does rise again. We know that. The sun does rise again. You will not stay stuck there. And the Five of Cups is saying that you desperately need to allow yourself to feel what you're feeling and stop judging it so harshly. There's a lot of self-criticism going on, and it's keeping you from actually opening up more to yourself. You feel bad just for having feelings. You feel bad just for acting in a certain way. You feel bad literally for living and existing, is what I'm hearing. Like, you see other people living and you think, oh, that must be so nice. It's literally, there's so much guilt and shame being held onto that you can't even let yourself plant new seeds. And it's time to just allow and let whatever is going to be. Because from there, that is where that passion for life is going to come back. That is where you're going to feel ready to reprioritize. It's where you're going to feel like you are in your body and like you are being your most authentic self. But the undoing has to come first. We can't skip that part. Then we have for you the Windswept Harmony card, which says, get swept up in your beautiful emotion. Let go into love and let the rhythm of your heart move you into greater harmony with yourself. There it is. Get swept up in your emotions. Get swept up in how you feel. Stop pushing away out of fear and shame and guilt of you feeling like you're too much. Have you ever said those words to yourself, that you think you're too soft for this world or you think you're too much for this world? I promise you that you're not. I promise that there are other people that feel things just as deeply as you do, and you're not alone. And I would argue that a lot of people feel things as deeply as you do. They just don't allow themselves to feel it openly. And so we're constantly walking around on this planet feeling like others can't recognize our inner world, when in reality, a lot of us are doing it. And it's time for you to let yourself sink into that without judgment, because that's what's been stopping you. And then we also have Go Within. I knew this card was going to come out. I always have to laugh a little bit because I feel like sometimes, I don't know, like even the cards that are pulled, I know when they're going to come. That doesn't always happen, but that's just interesting. Go within. Know that you are provided for. Oh, I'm not going to cry. Okay, before I finish reading this one, there was something I needed to also say back up here when I was talking about just letting go. And I said like 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, however long it takes. There were so many of you that thought to yourselves, I can't take a break. If I take a break, everything else will fall apart. And this is the message that you need. Go within. Know that you are provided for as you prepare to move forward. Trust in your resourcefulness during this transition. You have all that you will need, and the way is illuminated. As desire burns brightly to your core, connect first with the divine wisdom that you may be led by love. I'm going to read that one again. I'm sorry. Know that you are provided for as you prepare to move forward. Trust in your resourcefulness during this transition. You have all that you will need, and the way is illuminated. As desire burns brightly at your core, connect first with divine wisdom that you may be led by love. And look at like the imagery in these cards is just so stunning. Like Linda Fabry is a goddess. That's who makes these cards. And I'll link her channel down below for you as well. I'll tag it when I tag the cards because she just does the most beautiful divine work through her paintings. And I'm just always so enamored. I've never booked a session with her, but I would genuinely love to. She does intuitive paintings for people, and I think they're so neat. But you can even see with like this owl here carrying a divine message. I don't know how well. Sorry if you couldn't see the whole card. There's an owl here carrying a divine message. It looks like almost a fox and then like a person here. And look, the sun is rising again in the middle of the woods. Like it's in that darkness that you're going to find that the sun rises for you again. That's where it's going to happen, is in the middle of the places that you fear going the most. In your own inner world, not like out in the world. And then the last three cards I have for you, pile number 2, are basically suggestions for self-care during this transitional and maybe even a little heart-wrenching period of your life that are meant to empower you to go within and to facilitate that. So we have for you hydrate. I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory. Just, focus on your water intake, especially if you're crying a lot or expressing deep emotion a lot. Hydration is going to be really important because as we cry, we really do dry ourselves up more because we're releasing that water storage, right? So make sure you're staying really well hydrated right now. And then we have for you the card of pleasure. This is about not necessarily pleasure with someone else. It's self-pleasure. It's doing things that feel pleasurable just to you and doing things that, like, whether that is literally getting busy with yourself, if you know what I'm saying, or just experiencing life in a pleasurable way that brings you joy. And it's not for anybody else, it's for you. And then we also have make an altar. And I think Spirit is saying that this one out of all three is the most important. If you already have an altar, please clean it. Your spirit guides are saying, please, for the love of all that is holy, clean our altar, please. Clean the altar, put out some new candles, put out some new offerings. Spirit definitely is really calling you to that. And if you don't have an altar space, it's time to make one. It doesn't have to be a big, bougie, fancy thing. It can be this really lovely small thing. It can be on just an end table in your bedroom. It can be out in your kitchen, wherever you decide that you want to do your spiritual work the most is where I would put it. But it can be an altar that honors you, your higher self. It can be an altar that honors deities, your spirit guides, your ancestors, all of the above. Just put things there that are pleasing to you. And if you need some suggestions, I find that if you've never done altar work, suggestions are always really helpful. I will often put coffee out for my spiritual team in the morning. If I'm having a coffee, I'll brew a second coffee. And it's really important to me that I make it the way I would make it for myself, because it's one thing to just put like a black coffee on the altar unless that's what you drink. But I feel like it's so like sweet to actually take the time to like froth the milk you would use. I love oat milk personally, so that's what I use. And maybe put a couple of sugar cubes or stevia or whatever it is that you're using. Make it special the way that you would make it special for yourself. You can also put out like bread if you've made some homemade bread or store-bought bread. It doesn't really matter, but I find that it's when you're putting things on your altar, it's the things that you have taken the care to curate. Or I find that alcohol, if you drink, is a fantastic offering. Spirit really likes the spirits, if you know what I'm saying. So, I feel like talking about altars would maybe be a good podcast episode for those of you that are more curious about that. Be sure to check out my podcast. Actually, there was a bunch of episodes on like witchcraft that went out the month of October. So if you want to hear more of those, definitely check it out. Links are always down below for that. But that is what I have for you, pile number 2. I hope this reading helps you on your path. I hope it's empowered you to know that you're not alone and it's okay to sink into yourself. Spirit is honestly coaching you through it, and you wouldn't be led to it if you couldn't make your way through it. And please do not forget, when you stand in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. If you would like to support my channel, please consider joining the Patreon. There is all kinds of content out over there. Every single week, I'm putting new things out. It's a fairly active Patreon, so definitely check it out. The weekly just went out over there. There will be a new Patreon exclusive only reading going, and there should be another early access reading coming soon as well. You can also, if you would like to support me further, I have my Cashapp, Venmo, and PayPal listed down below. Never an expectation, but always appreciated. It really allows me to continue to do what I do here. I always appreciate those offerings from those of you that are able to do so. And I also, again, have my podcast, my Instagram, my TikTok. Everything is available down below for you, so definitely check it out. And same with all of the cards. I always list them in the order that they appear. And I love you so much, Pumpkin. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye. Hello there, pile number 3. If you chose the Moonstone crystal, this is going to be for you. Now, you got the new moon in Aquarius, open up to change, new moon in Pisces, attuned to the divine, and full moon in Sagittarius, see the bigger picture. You are the only pile today that got new moon cards. Everybody else got something else. And new moons resemble new energy. It's bringing new energy in. And you got open up to change and attuned to the divine. So I feel like for you, something really beautiful is unfolding. And I feel like you've maybe even been feeling it because you chose the Moonstone crystal. And Moonstone often is kind of an attachment like to the divine, to our emotions, to the way that we feel. And it also brings a lot of like peace and calm energy too. But I feel like you are actually already open up to things changing for you. It's getting more in touch with divinity. Like your spirituality needs a little bit more. It's time to make a sacred space for the divine, be it in your room, in your office, wherever, if you have an office, wherever you spend most of your time, usually in your home, is where the divine would like you to make a space for them. So if you spend a lot of time in the kitchen, consider making even just a tiny corner of the kitchen, not like a whole corner. It could literally just be a candle that you light when you're in the kitchen. That could really be a big part of it. If you have more space, maybe getting a little side table to set up more like an altar, which is funny because pile number 2, we actually just talked a little bit about altars. So if you're feeling really called to that practice, maybe check that reading out, pile number 2's reading. But right now, you're being asked to look beyond the mundane and what is directly in front of you before you continue to move, because the divine really wants to work with you. And that maybe is why you were even attracted to this reading, is because the divine and spirit wanted to basically get that message out to you that there's more to your current situation that meets the eye. And in order for the divine to work through you, or spirit to work through you and kind of guide you on this, you have to make the space for the divine to show up in your life. That's the biggest message that's channeling through right now, is you need to create and cultivate space for divinity to be in your life. And I think like the best way I could give you an example of just something that you might want to do, you can do it in any way that feels good for you. But back in 2017, I'm just giving you an example in case this is something that sounds good for you. Back in 2017, I felt very lost. I was going through my own dark night of the soul. I've made a ton of videos on this on my channel. And I had recently lost a sibling to drug overdose. It was a very hard time for me and my family. And I felt like I was so spiritually lost. And I decided, and it just kind of happened. It wasn't even a commitment that I was making. It was really weird. Like it just kind of happened and I went with it. But I started daily meditation in the morning just for a few minutes, nothing crazy. And this was like before I looked at my phone, before I turned my computer on for the first time that day. I would sit on my couch in my living room. I would light incense. I would cleanse myself with my incense. I would hang out with my crystals. I'd meditate for 3 to 5 minutes, nothing crazy. And I would read my cards every day, every day. This is when I got really invested into tarot cards. And this was like way before I started reading here. And that I feel like really saved me, connecting with divinity in that way and making that space and that priority in myself. And then after I finished card reading, I would always go out to my front lawn, which I lived somewhere that had a lawn I could do that on. I don't now, which has definitely been a big trade-off. But I would go out into the front lawn and I would ground my feet on bare grass and I would get some sun in. If the sun was out that day, I would sunbathe for 10 to 15 minutes, just getting some sun on my skin. And I don't even know what prompted me to make this a habit. I don't remember deciding to create this spiritual morning routine. I was just doing it and I liked it and it felt good. So I kept going with it. I think that's something that the divine also wants to remind you of here is whatever kind of practice or space you make in your life, it shouldn't feel like a chore. If praying is what you like to do, but it feels like a chore, don't pray. If meditation is something that you feel pulled to, but it feels like a chore, don't meditate. Do something that feels like you want to show up there for it every day. And that will make all the difference because there is more to your situation right now that spirit wants to deliver messages on, but you're not going to be able to see it unless you allow yourself that space. So let's take a look at some more cards. So we have for you the Knight of Wands, Justice, the High Priestess, you're so intuitive, and the Nine of Swords. You are so intuitive, but you don't trust it. And that is where the divine is asking to be let in. You don't get the High Priestess if you are not somebody who is a highly intuitive person. You just don't. The High Priestess is a card that is somebody that has really strong intuition, is very connected to divinity. You might even be somebody that is like interested in forms of divination, which could be tarot cards, could be pendulum reading, could be mediumship, could be, there's so many ways that divination can come out, but, when the High Priestess shows up, this to me says that you're somebody that has a very strong sense of intuition, but you're not trusting it. And you might even be kind of scared of it because the Nine of Swords being here shows fear. There's a lot of fear involved in what you're trying to feel. And maybe you've even kind of pushed your spirituality away in that regard because it feels like something that is maybe a little bit scary or sus, or you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have these experiences. Or being connected to divinity doesn't mean, or making space for spirituality or spirit doesn't mean that you have to have like paranormal experiences. And people ask even me all the time, can you tell us about your paranormal experiences? And frankly, no, because I don't really have any of those. I have like a few things that have happened that have been kind of like, whoa, but nothing paranormal in the sense of like seeing things. At least not that I can recall off the top of my head. I can only think of like one thing, and that was a long time ago. But I feel like that's part of the fear is you're almost afraid to accept your gifts because you think it's going to be a scary thing. And it's actually going to be something that gives you so much freedom and sense of peace and sense of balance in your life. This is where things have been really off kilter. And something else that I would really recommend to those of you that are trying to kind of find balance in your life, especially with this Justice card coming out, it's actually in the book, The Artist's Way, which if you are somebody that considers yourself to be a creative type or not, I actually think The Artist's Way could help a lot of people. I'm currently on week 4 myself, and it has been such a great experience. But it's just a book that you follow for 12 weeks. And the book itself, I feel like, is really inexpensive. But I will link it down below for you. But if you're trying to see where you might find more balance in your life or what areas need a little more assistance, I'm telling you it's probably spirituality, but there might be other areas that go in tandem. There's a really great way of looking at this, and you can actually draw a circle. And if you do this, please send me a picture of it on Instagram, and I would love to see it if you want to share. Draw a circle and divide that circle into 6 triangles. It's kind of hard to do freehand, but you can do it digitally too if you prefer that. And the 6 triangle pieces are going to be work, play, romance, or adventure. That's like one category. Spirituality, exercise, and friendship. And friendship can be family as well. Like it could be both. I usually always put mine down as friendship. But that being said, then you're going to take that pie charts, and in every triangle, the center of the graph, like the closer you get to the point of the triangle, the tip in the middle, that's like a lower score. And the closer you get to the exterior is a higher score. You're going to go into each triangle section and put a dot of where you feel like in work, in play, in adventure and romance, in friendships, in spirituality, where you feel like you are right now. Like, how well do you think you're executing that? And then you connect the dots with a line going around the circle, and it will kind of show you the areas of your life where maybe more work needs to be done, or maybe where you could put a little more time. I have found that my adventure has been off the charts and every other area of my life has been a little more on the downside. So I think that's kind of to be expected when you literally move, though, like I have this month. But I'm saying this because I think this is an exercise that Spirit wants you to maybe try out if it feels like it's calling to you. It can help you to see that bigger picture and bigger perspective, and also kind of help you to see what needs more connection. If you feel really spiritually in tune right now, it might just be learning more to hone those skills. But I'm getting the sense that something feels really off for you right now, and maybe you haven't pinpointed exactly what it is. And this exercise is not meant to hurt you or make you feel bad about yourself. It's meant to give you the guidance and the knowledge of where you can start putting your attention. It's not meant to make you feel like a failure. I do feel like that's kind of inevitable, though, when you see it on paper for the first time. It can feel a little bit like, oh, well, I'm not doing shit. But you're doing an excellent job, and Spirit wants me to confirm that to you as well. You're doing an excellent job, and I feel like this is also why you're getting more new moon energy than the other piles did. Not that everybody isn't doing a great job on their path, but you have gone through so much that it is time for you to have a fresh start somewhere. And you've truly earned coming to this place. You've been through a lot of the depths so that you can come out on the other end and start something new. Now we also have for you, see, and what I say is the truth, because look what we got here. We have the 4 of Swords, and we also have the Queen of Diamonds. And the 4 of Swords is the card of rest. I swear to you, every single time I read on this channel, not just for Patreon, this card comes out, the rest card. I don't know which one of you always picks the pile with the rest card, but y'all still aren't listening. We get the rest card almost every time. It always comes out. And I don't know if it's like a group of people or a specific person, but Spirit literally is saying you need to allow yourself more rest, because you're not going to be able to start this new chapter until you rest from everything that you've been through. And the Queen of Diamonds is somebody that is truly invested in herself, her self-betterment, or their self-betterment, their self-love, their self-care. And they also know how to get their desires met in the physical world. And Spirit is ultimately saying that this archetype has the potential to be you if you will allow yourself to rest and play, to rest and work, to really bring that sense of balance back into your life that has been otherwise missing. I also feel like this is a really strong call to look at your daily routines. So your like morning and evening routines, and maybe throughout the day too, depending on what it is that you spend your time doing. But really look at your routines and ask yourself if they're serving you. And if they're not, how can you put yourself in a routine that serves you better, that you want to commit to? And this doesn't mean doing everything all at once. If you're not someone that works out for an hour a day already, don't put in your routine work out for an hour a day. Put 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. Start somewhere really small with these things. Maybe it's drinking a certain amount of water. Maybe it's going to bed at a certain time or waking up at a certain time, journaling more, reading more. These are just things that are coming out at the top of my head, but craft a routine that really honors the person that you are becoming. Because Spirit is saying, like, if you want more rest in your life, plan for that rest. Plan for a work week in the future where you only work 3 days a week. Design your life to be what you envision it to be. And the Queen of Diamonds is telling you to design routines that honor that. You can even ask yourself the question of, is what I'm doing right now honoring the person I want to become? And if it's not, it's time to start reevaluating that. Now, we also have a couple of cards here from the Linda Fabry deck. This deck is actually brand new to me, and this is not in collaboration, but I am linking Linda Fabry down below, and this deck as well. I think her work is so important and so beautiful, and I have not myself commissioned her for a painted reading, but it's something that I definitely will do in the future. She just does such exquisite work, and it's so needed in this world. But her deck literally has brought me to tears in every single reading so far. So we have the Celestial Child, which says, dream your dream, climb the tree of wonder as far as it will go. You must know. Life reveals its gifts to those who make the wishes and count themselves among the stars at night. That was like a breath of fresh air. I felt the tension that maybe some of you were holding, especially in my heart. I feel like some of you maybe have been really hurt. And this is where that fresh start is coming. I felt that tension just kind of melt away. And it's time to dream your dream. I mean, Sagittarius is absolutely a dreamy sign, and so is Pisces. And you got both of those here. But I feel like it's time to start believing in that childlike mind again. It's time to start remembering who you are and how you literally are the universe, and the universe is you, and you can count yourself among the stars. You are allowed to make wishes and see them manifest. It's not just for special people, it's for you too. So that card is very beautiful. It's just got like this tree, and there's a sun and a person's like smiling profile. There's forest trees up here, or like evergreens, I guess, forest trees. These cards are just so intricate, and there's pictures kind of hidden in them. And then we also have run to yourself. You who desires to be awaits. Beyond the fears that guard the gate. Leap, not with the body, but with the mind. Accept the gifts that you've been given and leave the rest behind. Ooh, I just got the chills. Let me read that one more time. Run to yourself. You who desires to be awaits. Beyond the fears that guard the gate. Leap, not with the body, but with the mind. Accept the gifts that you've been given and leave the rest behind. I feel like your mind has been what has been stopping you from creating your desired existence. And ask yourself what you would do every day if money was no object, and you didn't have to have it, or no object. Yeah. Like if you didn't have to have it, how would you spend your days? How would you feel the most fulfilled? And then start to craft the life that is in alignment with that. Even if you still have to work the 9 to 5 at this point, start to think of the ways in which you could start putting your life in that way. Like, let's say, for example, you want to write at the beach every day, but you live really inland and you don't have a ton of time on your hands, but you have some that you could commit. Get out to a local park with a lake or a fountain or a waterfall, or go somewhere out in nature and prioritize writing a couple of days a week. It's creating what you desire in the small moments that will really get you to the next stage. And I can even say that just from personal experience, from others' personal experiences that I've witnessed. The more that we put ourselves mentally in that space, the faster we're able to bring it in. And it's time for you to start dreaming again. I feel like you've really kind of put your dreams by the wayside. And even if you are doing something now that feels like very dreamy, like you are putting work towards something that you've wanted, you're doing a great job at it, but you're losing yourself in the daily process, and you're not allowing yourself to continue to dream big. You're starting to feel like it's impossible. And Spirit is saying you need to reconnect with the vision, the grand vision that you have for yourself at large. Now, we also have a few more cards for you. These are just like basically notes of self-care that you may want to do to kind of help further along what we've been talking about here. So the first card is journal. And this is so funny to me because you're the only pile that I talked about the Artist's Way. And the Artist's Way is a 12-week like journaling thing. You buy a book and there's really great insight and exercises inside of it. I've been doing it for 4 weeks. I skipped a week because I was moving, but I'm back on it. And some of my greatest revelations have come through this. Some of my greatest like intentions have come through this. And it's been such a healing thing. And I feel like for you, Spirit might want you to take that kind of plunge, to journal more, to get your feelings out there more. And maybe you're somebody who's already been doing it, and this is just the confirmation to keep going. We also have for you, look for fairies. And I love this because fairies literally are just like magical, fun, playful creatures. And I know there's a lot of information out there that like really goes against working with the fae, and I am not an expert, so please do not take everything I say as the only word or the only way. But I have personally worked with the fae at least one time significantly, and it was not a bad experience. It was very fun, in fact. Fae magic is really fun. It's very playful and very like, you feel like drunk on life. I don't even know how to make that make sense unless you've done it yourself, but very, very, very fun. And it really helps you to kind of get back into the playful side of life. And so I feel like if you feel called to that practice, it's something to consider. Obviously, do it safely, do what you feel called to do. Always, 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 always give an offering to fairies. Do not just show up there empty-handed. I think that's the whole thing, is you don't ask for favors empty-handed. But it's just a very playful energy, and Spirit is saying to, invite that imaginative self back in. And then we also have clear your energy field. So you may want to see a Reiki practitioner. You may want to take a cleansing bath. There's a podcast episode coming up at the end of November where I talk about spiritual self-care. And this might be something that you want to listen to because I talk about some of this stuff. But even taking like a cleansing bath, or clearing your energy with, I really like using cedar. I also really like lavender bundles, incense. You always want to be really respectful in your practice. I know that some practitioners use things like sage and Palo Santo. I do not personally. I have friends that are Indigenous, and it is just sometimes, not sometimes, it is cultural appropriation, depending on who you are and where you're from. But I always kind of say that you don't have to go the route of sage and Palo Santo. You can go the route of using incense or lavender or cedar. There are so many other things you can burn to cleanse your energy. So it doesn't have to be that. I personally really like incense, and then the cedar is really nice. But Spirit is ultimately just saying to you that your energy might be a little bit like kind of grimy or stale, and you need to cleanse. If you haven't cleansed in a while, you need to make sure that you cleanse. And that is what I have for you, pile number 3. Please do not forget, when you stand in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. Be sure to check out the Patreon if you want extra readings, exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else, weekly energy updates, and things like that. And if you would like to support me further, I do have my Cashapp, Venmo, PayPal listed down below. I do accept tips for my readings. I don't expect them, but I certainly appreciate them. I usually pour them straight back into my business, and I'll buy new decks or new camera equipment or things like that. So it really does help me out. So I certainly appreciate that. And I also have my Instagram, my TikTok. Those are both available. I'm at Kloee Taylor, and my podcast available everywhere you listen to podcasts. It's mainly just me sitting down talking about like spirituality, or kind of helping to empower or build you up through sharing my own personal experiences. And we have a really good time on the podcast. So everything is linked for you down below. I love you so much, Pumpkin. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.